There was a moment, not long ago, when I visited my friend Doris at her cozy assisted living apartment. She's 84, sharp as a tack, and has a laugh that lights up any room. We were sipping tea in her tiny kitchen when she confided in me that she'd been lonely since her husband passed. I listened as she described the quiet ache of missing companionship, someone to share little jokes, hold her hand during a doctor's appointment, or simply be around so she didn't have to watch her favorite shows by herself. But whenever she considered dating, she felt a surge of questions. Am I too old for this? What if my family disapproves? Who would even be interested in someone my age? It struck me how many seniors must feel this way, longing for connection, but wondering if that door has closed for good. The truth is, once you pass 80, dating can feel like walking in unfamiliar territory. Long-held rules like how to flirt or when to call suddenly don't apply the same way. Our bodies and minds have changed. Our priorities have shifted. It can feel daunting to take a risk on romance when we're also dealing with health concerns, family opinions, or the haunting worry that we might be setting ourselves up for heartbreak at a time in life when resilience is precious. Yet as Doris spoke, I could hear the spark of hope that still lingered. She didn't want to spend the rest of her days longing for connection. She wanted to give love and receive it on terms that made sense for this stage of her life. And that's exactly what I'd like to explore with you. 5 updated rules for dating after 80 that can open the door to new experiences without the confusion or frustration that often holds us back. Each of these rules breaks away from outdated ideas about romance and encourages a fresh perspective, showing you what actually works when you're older, wiser, and more determined than ever to live fully. Stick with me until the end, because the 5th rule might just surprise you. It's something almost no one talks about. Yet it might be the key to the deepest kind of companionship imaginable. I've spent years talking with seniors who've successfully navigated late-life dating, as well as reading up on research into emotional well-being in our later years. And I can tell you there's a growing consensus among geriatric experts that it's never too late for a fulfilling romantic or companionate relationship. In fact, many are discovering that healthy relationships can significantly boost vitality and even prolong longevity. While I'm no doctor or therapist, I've seen firsthand how applying certain strategies can transform how seniors approach dating. Before we begin, if you haven't already, I recommend you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future videos. And if you end up liking what you hear, please type 1 in the comments. If it doesn't resonate with you, type 0 so I can learn from your feedback and continue to refine these conversations. Now let's dive right in. If you've ever wondered whether it's truly possible to find meaningful connection in your 80s or beyond, you're in good company. A growing number of seniors are breaking the mold, proving that not only is it possible, it might just be one of the most life-affirming journeys you can undertake. So let's explore these 5 rules that change after 80 and see what actually works for dating in the golden years. The first rule is that you don't need to pretend you're still 50. For decades, we were told that to be attractive, we had to look and act young, hide every gray hair, mask every wrinkle, or strive to keep up with the norms of a younger generation. But I'd like to suggest something bold. Embrace who you are right now. Contrary to popular belief, true attraction in your 80s often springs from authenticity. Let me explain what I mean. A common misconception is that nobody wants a partner who complains about their aching joints or the extra time it takes them to get ready in the morning. Many seniors believe they should put on a cheerful face and never admit to the realities of aging, fearing that honesty about limitations will scare potential partners away. But the truth is, genuine vulnerability can be deeply appealing. After 80, the people who genuinely want to connect with you are less concerned with superficial showmanship and more interested in the real person behind the wrinkles. I'll never forget a conversation with Robert, who's 82. He tried hiding his hearing difficulties at first, refusing to wear his hearing aids when he met with someone new for coffee. He thought it made him look old and broken, so he'd simply nod along, missing half the conversation. Unsurprisingly, his dates seemed to go nowhere because he often answered questions out of context, or he'd laugh at the wrong moment. One day, his daughter convinced him to show up exactly as he was, hearing aids in place, openly explaining that sometimes he'd need things repeated. To his surprise, the woman he met found his honesty refreshing. She appreciated the clarity and felt relieved to be meeting someone who wasn't trying to act 20 years younger than he was. They ended up having a wonderful connection. The surprising insight is that authenticity, even about your limitations, builds trust more quickly than forced positivity does. By sharing your real concerns and experiences, like how you might need a slower pace during a walk, or that sometimes your arthritis flares up, you're inviting the other person to see and support the real you. It also sets an honest precedent for the relationship, allowing both sides to share daily realities. So here's a practical step. The next time you set up a date, resist the urge to minimize your health needs or pretend you can do everything you did 30 years ago. Instead, say something like, "Let's pick a cafe that's easy to get to, as my knees can act up if I'm on my feet too long." This kind of directness can be a breath of fresh air. It frees you from the pressure of living up to an image, and it also invites your date to share their realities. The emotional benefit? You'll feel more confident and less stressed about being perfect. And in turn, you'll attract people who genuinely want the deeper connection that comes with sincerity. In fact, many seniors who adopt this no faking it approach find they have fewer first dates, but the ones they do have lead to more meaningful second and third dates. That's because they're aligning themselves with partners who appreciate the real person, wrinkles and all. Now let's move to the second rule. Don't let fear of judgment, especially from family, steer your ship. One of the biggest mental hurdles for seniors thinking about dating is, what will my kids or grandkids say? It's natural to worry they might disapprove, misunderstand, or feel uncomfortable about you dating at your age. Some might even worry you're vulnerable and could be taken advantage of. But here's the bold statement. Your life is still your own, and you have the right to seek companionship. The opinions of loved ones matter, but they shouldn't overpower your own pursuit of happiness. A common misconception here is that your children always know best and that their discomfort should dictate your choices. The reality? While family input is valuable, especially if there are real concerns about safety or finances, it's not fair or healthy to sacrifice your chance for meaningful companionship just to keep the peace. You can listen lovingly to your family's concerns without allowing them to take the driver's seat of your personal life. Consider Mary, who's 88. After her husband's passing, she bonded with a friend, Al, over daily walks. Their connection blossomed into a sweet, supportive companionship that eventually turned romantic. But Mary's son worried about potential scams. He'd read horror stories about seniors being preyed upon for their savings. Although Mary understood his concern, she also knew Al's character and saw how he treated her with kindness and respect. So she took a middle path. She asked her son to meet Al. Once her son saw how genuine Al was, his worries eased, and Mary didn't have to give up her newfound joy. The surprising insight is that open communication can quell many fears. Invite your children and grandchildren to meet your new companion. Talk candidly about financial boundaries so everyone's concerns are addressed. You might say, "I love you and value your input, but I also need your support in my choice to find happiness again." Families often come around when they see how a loving companionship can improve your mood, boost your health, and bring new excitement into your life. A practical step is to have a heart-to-heart with your family early on. Explain what you're looking for and why it matters to you. Emphasize that you're being cautious but also hopeful. The emotional benefit of this approach is freedom. Freedom from unnecessary guilt and the freedom to live fully in the time you have. Because let's face it, the stakes here are high. If you let fear of judgment call the shots, you could miss out on wonderful experiences that fill your later years with warmth and connection. If you're still watching and finding these insights useful, please comment with the number 2 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't yet subscribed, consider doing so now. Your support helps keep these important conversations going. Let's continue. The third rule is especially crucial. Let go of the notion that you need a formal date to make a connection. When we were younger, we had these rigid ideas of dating, dinner at a nice restaurant, maybe a movie afterward, followed by awkward waiting to see who calls first. But after 80, the best way to meet someone might be by simply engaging in daily activities you already enjoy. or are curious about. Here's a bold statement. True companionship often grows out of everyday casual moments rather than staged romantic events. Many seniors assume that if you're not going out to a fancy restaurant or dressing up, it's not real dating. The misconception is that you have to follow the old rules of courtship to form a legitimate bond. But the reality is that shared interests and steady, meaningful conversations matter far more than whether you're both sitting in candlelight. I think of Frank, 86, who found a companion in his aqua aerobics class. He started going to the pool twice a week to help with mobility and meet other people his age. At first, it was purely about exercise, but after sessions, some of them would gather for coffee in the community lounge. Over time, he noticed a warm connection with Joan, 83, who always had a towel folded neatly for him. They began chatting more deeply about books they were reading, their shared love of 1950s jazz, and the neighborhoods where they'd grown up. One day, Frank realized he felt butterflies in his stomach when she smiled at him. Their daily routine gradually evolved into dinner outings, and soon they were calling it dating. Yet it began with something as simple as a water exercise class. The surprising insight, real connection doesn't always require the structure of a date night. Sometimes consistent time spent together in casual settings fosters trust and comfort faster. A small habit change could be as easy as attending a local meetup group, a dance class, or a senior yoga session. The emotional benefit here is the gradual unfolding of companionship, free from the nerves and formalities that can overwhelm us. Instead of worrying whether you said the right thing in a romantic setting, you're both just living life and enjoying each other's company. Try this. Pick one new activity that intrigues you, a craft circle, a book club, or even an online group if mobility is an issue. Engage wholeheartedly and see if any connections naturally form. Maybe you'll meet someone who shares your passion for watercolors or who also adores old Western movies. Over time, these casual encounters might become something deeper. And the best part is, you're enjoying yourself along the way, regardless of whether it evolves into romance. Moving on to the fourth rule, emotional intimacy can be just as thrilling as physical intimacy, sometimes even more so. Now, I know some people might say, wait a minute, physical intimacy is important too, and it certainly can be. But here's the bold challenge to conventional wisdom. After 80, emotional closeness often trumps the purely physical side of dating. Many seniors believe that if they can't engage in physical affection the way they used to, it's not worth pursuing. The truth is, meaningful companionship can manifest in many forms. An emotional connection can bring a profound level of fulfillment. The misconception is that dating has to revolve around physical attraction, and that if your body isn't quite cooperating, maybe due to illness, mobility issues, or simply age-related changes, there's no point in seeking romance. But let me share the story of Hazel, 90. She lost a great deal of her mobility after a hip surgery and assumed no one would be interested in her as a romantic partner because she wasn't physically able to dance the way she once did. But through a mutual friend, she met Ernest, 92. He struggled with vision problems, so both of them had their limitations. They started having daily phone calls, just half an hour to talk about their day, share memories, and laugh over old times. Over several months, an emotional closeness blossomed that Hazel says feels like the greatest gift. They do meet in person, but mostly their relationship thrives on deep, heartfelt conversation and mutual understanding. They might hold hands and share a gentle hug, but the real spark is in their emotional bond. The surprising insight here is that romance after 80 can go beyond the traditional markers of chemistry. It's often about intellectual and emotional exchange, discussing favorite memories, supporting each other during tough days, or just feeling truly seen and heard. A practical step might be shifting your mindset about what intimacy looks like. Maybe it's a shared prayer or a conversation about your deepest fears and hopes. Maybe it's sitting together, listening to music that transports you back to treasured moments. The emotional benefit is huge. It reignites a sense of being cherished and understood, which can boost your overall well-being. Now, if you're still here and finding value in these points, please comment with the number 4 below to let me know you're still watching. And remember, subscribing and turning on notifications is the best way to stay connected and get more helpful conversations like this. Finally, let's talk about the fifth rule, which might surprise you. Recognize that companionship doesn't have to follow the standard progression of dating, marriage, happily ever after. Here's the bold statement. At this stage, a relationship can be fluid. Maybe it's a friendship that has some romantic elements. Maybe it's a supportive bond without a formal label. Or perhaps you'll choose to commit legally, but for entirely different reasons than younger people do, like financial or healthcare considerations. A lot of seniors believe that if you're not heading toward marriage, it doesn't count. But the reality is, you get to define your relationship in any way that works for both parties. Take Harry, who's 87, and Simone, 84. They met at a senior social club and quickly realized they loved spending time together. But neither wanted to deal with legal entanglements. Both had adult children to consider, and they felt financially stable on their own. Instead of forcing a traditional path, they simply chose to be faithful companions. They travel together when they can, share holidays with each other's families, when invited, and look after each other's health. Yet they keep their finances separate, and they live in different apartments in the same retirement community. They don't call themselves husband and wife, but they consider themselves devoted partners. And for them, it works beautifully. The surprising insight is that by allowing a relationship to develop organically and without rigid expectations, you free yourselves to enjoy the best parts of companionship. The practical step here is to have open conversations about what you both want. Talk about living arrangements, financial boundaries, even hospital visitation preferences. It might feel odd discussing these matters so openly, but clarity prevents misunderstandings later. The emotional benefit? Relief from the societal pressure, and the peace of knowing you can shape your connection in a way that truly enhances both of your lives. Now take a moment to imagine what it would look like if you applied all these insights. How might your 80s and beyond be different if you dropped the old dating rule book and embraced this new version of companionship? For many seniors, it's like stepping into a second youth, minus the insecurities of younger years, plus the wisdom and self-awareness that come with age. As we begin to wrap up, think about the 5 rules we've discussed. Embrace authenticity over pretense. Listen to family concerns, but don't hand them the reins to your happiness. Seek organic connections through shared activities rather than traditional dates. Discover the power of emotional intimacy, which can be just as, if not more, fulfilling than physical closeness. And finally, remember that you define what your relationship looks like. There's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to companionship after 80. All 5 are threads in one larger tapestry. The power of living on your own terms. That's really what's at stake here. If you cling to outdated ideas, fearing judgment, forcing physical expectations that no longer apply, or chasing an ideal that doesn't resonate with your real life, you risk missing out on potentially life-changing connections in your later years. But if you take these updated rules to heart, you stand to gain renewed joy, deeper emotional fulfillment, and the uplifting sense that you're far from done experiencing life's wonders. The urgency is real. Time is precious, especially now. Every month, every day counts more than ever, so waiting on the sidelines to see if someone else will give you permission to pursue connection may mean missing out on golden opportunities. Imagine looking back a year from now and realizing you could have formed a bond with someone who shares your sense of humor, your taste in music, or your fascination with the changing seasons, and all because you broke a few outdated rules. I encourage you to personalize these insights. Which rule resonates the most with you right now? Maybe it's the idea of not having to hide your limitations, or maybe it's realizing you're allowed to define the relationship however you see fit. Perhaps you're already thinking of a book club you'd like to join, or that your granddaughter's friend's single grandfather might be fun to meet. Picture yourself stepping out of your comfort zone, even just an inch, to explore what new companionship could feel like. Ask yourself, if I took one small step today, making a call, signing up for a class, or simply being more open about my true needs, how might I feel a month from now? And now, here's a multi-layered call to action for you. First, leave a comment below, sharing which point stood out to you most and how you might put it into practice. That moment of reflection and sharing can turn intention into action. Next, if you enjoyed this conversation, hit the like button and subscribe. That small gesture tells me that these topics matter to you, and it helps ensure we can keep talking about the things that affect our lives most deeply. Finally, consider sharing this video with a friend, sibling, or anyone else who might benefit. You never know who might be quietly wondering about whether dating or companionship is still possible in their 80s. Remember, your later years can be a season of growth, discovery, and yes, even romance. You have the power to write a new chapter in your life story, one filled with hope and opportunity. Thank you for spending this time with me, and I truly hope these 5 rules encourage you to step out, take a chance, and invite fresh connections into your life. You deserve every ounce of happiness that might be waiting just around the corner. I look forward to hearing your stories and continuing this journey together in our next conversation.